to our third installment of Conversations Over Coffee. Today we are pleased to have two staff from Woodland Centers joining us, Crystal Chase and Stacy Cool, who both work as school-linked mental health therapists. Stacy is the therapist with the Hutchinson School District, and Crystal is a therapist with the ACGC School District. Welcome, Stacy and Crystal. Today we're going to talk about co-regulation. Regulation as a whole refers to the ability of being able to adjust as a response to change. And today this topic of co-regulation will barely scratch the surface, but I'm going to turn it over to Vicki Henley, our Family Support and Community Outreach Specialist with Wilmer Early Childhood Family Programs, as she leads us in this conversation.
Thanks, Nancy, and thank you, ladies, for agreeing to do this. When we visit about co-regulation, we know that the COVID situation has left all of our lives disrupted or changed, to say the least. And with this change in our lives, we may see changes in behavior from adults as well as from children. In visiting with you, and then also reading a little bit about co-regulation, it sounds like this technique may be helpful with alleviating some of the anxiety or the frustration that experienced during the COVID. Can you tell me more about what co-regulation is to begin with?
Yeah, so when we think about the word co-regulation, we're talking about our ability to regulate and calm ourselves so that we can then share our space and our calm with somebody else. Oftentimes we think about it with our children. So as parents, we enter a calm state and then help our child to enter that calm state. I'm having a hard day at the mall or wherever they are, and this officer, calm enough to be able to get down at that child's level, lay with that child, talk to that child, and bring that child to a regulated state. So we often don't have that ability on our own. We need an adult to help us with that, especially in the early years.
This is a resource from Beacon House, but it talks about how we have to regulate together first with the child. So as a child might be escalating in our behaviors, we first have to regulate together, and then we have to be able to relate to each other somehow, create that relationship, get a little bit more into that relationship, and then the child is able to kind of reason and think more complexly. But when a child is feeling overwhelmed or stressed, they first need to regulate. Otherwise, their brains are not going to be able to reason. And so oftentimes when you see a child getting upset and then the parent is like, don't you slam that door on me, they're not even hearing that. And that's why we have to go back and think about the officer and that student and how the officer was able to regulate and relate with that child by laying with them on the floor. And then once you're able to co-regulate, so he was co-regulating, that's what we're doing in that regulating and relating. We're doing both of those things at the same time. Once you are able to engage with the child or engage with another person, then you're able to talk about, hey, this is what's going on. This is what's bothering me. Or, hey, you know what? I noticed this. Let's do a rewind. But you won't be able to do that until you actually reach the reason state. And so this is kind of shows the importance of co-regulation and the need to be able to regulate yourself as an adult coming into the situation with the child so that the child can then feed off of you as well. We're going to be including a video that you can also watch. And in that video, they kind of talk about harmonizing and how that when you co-regulate, you're harmonizing together. And it's almost like two strings. So like if you're playing like the violin, you know how that they vibrate. Well, not only does just one string vibrate, the whole instrument has a vibration with itself. So it's just like that adult is that one string that's vibrating. The other strings around it also vibrate in its own way to make the instrument sound that way. And so it's a really great extra video to learn a little extra more about co-regulation.
Great information, Crystal. I can see how that would need to be a new way of thinking for a lot of us, because we as parents try to be the reasoning source, and we jump right to reasoning without having that regulating going on beforehand. So thank you.
I have a quick question, Vicki. Could I ask a quick question?
You bet,
At
Nancy.
what age is that process most, when can children really start to do that, Crystal? I can't imagine my 14-month-old grandson getting to that reasoning stage. So at what age would you start using this strategy?
We as people we're not born with the innate ability to calm and regulate ourselves. So actually from birth, as parents, we are teaching our kids how to regulate. And it actually starts at that place. And then the more experiences they have of coming into our calm space and calming themselves down, they learn the skills to be able to do it on their own. So the hope would be that as they get old, the older they get, the more skills they will have in regulating, but it does not come naturally. Actually, our natural response is a fear-based, that fight, flight, freeze response.
Sure.
That's innate, that's inside of us, and it's what's going to come out until we learn how to do it differently. And that's the beauty of co-regulation.
Who can co-regulate together? Who? Does it have to be an adult and a child? Could it be a child and a child? Could you expand on that?
Absolutely. You know what? Anyone can co-regulate. All four of us are actually co-regulating together by being together, by doing this. And even we were able to talk a little bit before we started. We kind of were co-regulating each other before we started this recording, where we were kind of matching each other's energies. Really, it just takes two things, you know. It could be any two people. It could even be a person and an animal. Today, I actually saw on my Facebook feed with one of my therapy websites that Facebook pages I belong to, it had a video of a child co-regulating with a dog and would end up sleeping with the dog every single night, you know. And so pets, that's why pet therapy is so successful, because that's what it does. It helps you co-regulate when you're cuddling up with a pet. It can also be caring between two adults. You know, it's important for parents, or even if you're a single parent, having another adult to co-regulate to kind of help you feel like, okay, I got this as a parent. The interesting part is that when a child is dysregulated, it's important for the adult, because the adult should have already learned it, or is learning it, because I'm continuously learning how to co-regulate or just regulate myself, because that's what feeds off of with the other person that you're regulating with. Oftentimes you'll regulate together and kind of meet in the middle, whether it's between two parents or a mother and a child, or an adult child and an adult parent. And then I know we were talking a little bit earlier too, it could even be co-regulating with your environment. If your environment is very chaotic, you're going to feel chaotic. If everything is put away in its space, you're going to feel more calm and at peace, because everything has a place. So yeah, it's a really broad answer.
Wonderful description and good ideas. So we have it, we just need to pull it out as adults and use it as well. My question for you is, with COVID going on and with not having that personal contact, I'm be done virtually. I was just curious, you know, because we can't get together, you know, person to person right now. So if I'm feeling like I'm just kind of needing some regulation, can I do it virtually with someone?
When I think about virtual, and I think about even the kids that I see for therapy, if I'm anxious or if they're anxious, we can feel that between each other, even over the screen. And so when I'm calm, or maybe I'm just sitting back and I'm going to take a couple deep breaths, and I do that, it then calms the person on the other side as well. So I think you absolutely can do some of that co-regulation. Sometimes even doing some breathing together or some movements together can help bring calmness, can help bring that regulation. Definitely.
Yeah, and one way when you're talking about hand movements is one technique that I've been told in my additional training is even just doing something with the hands virtually, just asking the other person to follow your hands with you. And it's interesting with that mirroring effect of how that's able to bring you to that situation. One way I've worked with some of the children that I work with virtually, we've done frog jumps, and we try to time them at the same time. Or we will try to do different mindful movements at the same time, or we'll try to pair our breath together at the same time. So there's a lot of different ways that we can do that virtually.
Another one that I
Excellent.
think about, so part of co-regulation is teaching the skills, providing the opportunity for the other person to be able to calm. And we know that chewing or drinking are very calming, are very regulating activities. So it might even be saying, hey, I wonder if we could eat a snack together over Zoom. Let's each get our snack, let's get our drink, and let's just have a snack together. And that in and of itself can actually be very regulating.
Yes, for years, occupational therapists have encouraged the chewing, the sucking of peppermints, things like that. So doing it together would even enhance it even more, I would think. So next question, ladies. Oh, this is great information. Does the process of co-regulation continue, or is this something practiced just until like mastery? Does this lead ever to self-regulation?
Definitely.
Questions.
I actually found a quote by a man, Dr. Stuart Shanker, and he is actually the founder of a self-regulation institute. He actually made this comment. So children learn how to regulate their emotions through co-regulation. The better we can soothe them when they are agitated or support them when they are low, the better they absorb how to do this themselves.
Oh, bingo. That's exactly what we were asking.
Yes, so we are training their brains in how to regulate. Every time that you rock your newborn baby, or you bounce with your newborn baby, or you sing, you're teaching it and building in their brain the ability to learn how to regulate. And so you'll even see kids who might rock a little bit as they get older because they learned, hey, this is something that helps me to calm, helps me to self-soothe.
Right.
So it is something that we learn and develop over time.
And I think we as educators and parents need to know that those are things that we don't want to deter. We want to encourage kids to use what they need to find that regulation.
Yes, because it's only in the regulated state where they're truly going to
Correct.
learn and reason.
I have one last question, and then maybe we can go to the resources at the end because they've had such wonderful resources. Strategies and skills that are developed or strengthened for children and families by using co-regulation. Can these be used to help the whole family structure? And please expand on that if you would, please.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole family. It's interesting because as a family unit, you constantly co-regulate together. So if there's one person in the family unit that's anxious or on edge, that's going to make the whole family unit on edge or anxious. And so it's important as a family to really focus on that co-regulation piece. And it's doing things at the same time. It's something. I have two young children, 4 and 6. And something that we have found that they love to do is jumping on the trampoline. We all jump together, hold hands, but we're not all jumping separate. We're jumping together. And you can feel that as you're doing it at the same time, it just is so soothing and you feel more connected as well. And I think a lot of times too, children want the cohesivity of the family. And so, for example, my husband, he farms. And so we've been pretty dysregulated as a family lately because my husband has been gone and has not been around for family meals because he's been in the field. And so when we have those family meals, that's co-regulating right there because then, and it can even be extended family meals as well too. I think that's why at Thanksgiving, even though we might have differences among the family, we also feel like, oh, okay, we're together, we're sharing this meal together. And so that is so important. And one thing that my girls also love doing is cuddling on the couch, especially when we have all been all over the map and maybe we all haven't been home. We've been at daycare, school, work. But at the very end of the day, they won't go to bed until we've co-regulated, reading a story together, cuddling on the couch, watching our favorite show, playing a game together. Something together is going to be a way that as a family unit, you can bring in that co-regulation together. Oftentimes too, we have a thing that's called take a breath. And so my 6-year-old loves this because if she notices that I'm feeling anxious, this is crazy, but she'll say, Mom, you need to take a breath. So then what we all do as a family is we all stop and we all, okay, let's take a deep breath. And sometimes we take 5 of them if we're intense, or it's just 1 or 2, but it's a way that we can hold each other in check and also help each other know when maybe someone else in the family is feeling dysregulated because a different family member is dysregulated.
Excellent. I love that she's cueing you as an adult. You know, with COVID going on, ladies, on a positive note, if this is indeed co-regulation, but you see so many families walking together. I've seen so much walking going on, maybe because more parents are home, but that's another way I would assume of co-regulating together rather than just taking a walk alone. They're taking it in together. And I hope some of that does not stop after the COVID experience, because I think that's been a real positive.
Oh, absolutely. And you'll see that's why people enjoy marching bands or even our army. You see them always walk in sync together. You know, for them, that's a co-regulation piece that as a very large group, you're able to all walk together. And if you notice too, a lot of families will actually end up walking in sync with each other without noticing it. So it's interesting how it just naturally happens, especially if everyone is feeling regulated together at the same energy level. And so, yeah, so kind of just take a look and see if you actually end up mirroring people without noticing it. It's really neat. And that's the same reason why people enjoy dance. Dancing's a great thing to do because you're dancing together, or even with a dance team or something that's choreographed, because you're all in tempo together with something that's planned. And then Stacy, I want to make sure that you have a chance to talk a little bit about touch.
I had another thought even about what you were saying about the family structure. And when we're focused on regulation versus behavior, I think we also handle situations in our home differently. So instead of my child is behaving naughty towards me, you know, why do you always do this to me? We're looking at, oh, I think she's maybe dysregulated or he's dysregulated. What can I do that would help bring calm to this situation? And it's a different mindset and can help bring even more peace into a home. In thinking about some of the ideas, I have a little 3-year-old and she gets pretty anxious when we go into stores or into the community where there's a lot of people. And one of the things I tend to do is hold her hand. And even that in and of itself, walking, holding your child's hand, or my 10-year-old doesn't necessarily want to hold my hand, but sometimes she'll let me put my arm around her. And so I'll walk and do that. And it brings regulation to her and to me. We're doing that together. And so just that simple touch, you know, with COVID, we have to be careful who we're touching. Yes. And with our kids, we can do that. So even that, the simplicity of touch is very calming and regulating.
Crystal, that brings me back to the hand thing. Think of all the people that are alone right now, families, you know, that just might need that virtual hand touch right now. Very, very good information.
I think this is a topic we could talk for hours about, and I think we barely scratched the surface, and I think we could go on and on because it's so interesting and so relevant to what children need, what families need, what adults need. Can you share with us some of the, just give an overview of what some of the resources are that we're going to post in the comments for folks, so that if they're wondering what, where they could go for more information? Can you touch?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know there's a video to watch that maybe it talks a little bit more about the fight, flight, and freeze response and
Mhm.
how that or how that all is connected with the brain. So it goes more into depth about that, and that is a YouTube video. And then there is also a website that is for the TBRI National Institute. So this is the founder of this trust-based intervention, and it's so interesting because it says that it's supposed to be used for kids who have experienced trauma.
Mhm.
But if we actually look at it, it goes into prenatal trauma, and we could talk
Mhm.
forever about the definition of just what is trauma.
Yeah.
And in general, everyone has experienced trauma on some level. Therefore, these co-regulation techniques that are needed and used in this trust-based interventions really works for the majority of our kiddos, and it's a great way to really get down on the child's level, and then also go from there on what is next. Mm-hmm.
Great. That might be a topic for a future conversation over
Yes.
coffee is what is
Yes.
trauma. So thank you guys so much for being with us. We've appreciated your expertise and your knowledge and sharing of everything that you did with us today. And we hope that you'll join us for our next episode.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
And
Yes,
thank
Bye.
you, ladies. Have a great day.